I am appalled at the current situation in Libya, a country which has been completely destroyed and destabilised by European countries through NATO. Their illegal military interventions have unleashed a wave of militarisation, and warlords now compete for control, with civilians and refugees bearing the brunt of their brutality and greed. The EU only seems to care about the possibility of refugees reaching Europe via Libya, and they have created an incredibly inhuman policy to contain refugees in Libya. And I do welcome the comments of the Special Rapporteur, and indeed I welcome this report because of the positive contribution it makes in terms of human rights. I do want Section 11 in particular strengthened. They are even forcing refugees who have escaped Libya back to this war-torn country where they will continue to be exploited and violated. Médecins Sans Frontières have been providing medical care to people detained within a number of migrant detention centres in Tripoli. They've stated that people in these official Libyan centres are simply treated as a commodity to be exploited. They are packed into dark, filthy rooms with no ventilation, living on top of one another. Testimonies from refugees who have escaped have revealed that in these centres, men are frequently beaten and tortured. Women are raped and sexually assaulted. There is video evidence of men and women being sold as slaves openly in marketplaces. Despite the reality facing refugees in Libya being widely known, EU member states are actively seeking to enforce policies of containment and thus feeding this business of suffering. That is completely unacceptable. By supporting the capability of the Libyan Coast Guard, EU member states are building their capacity to return migrants intercepted in the Mediterranean back to Libya and not to a port of safety. Many of those intercepted by the Libyan Coast Guard will ultimately wind up back in the very system of detention they were fleeing from in the first instance. This is a complete violation of international law, and NGO boats in the Mediterranean have reported it as a regular occurrence. The EU's current policies and funding in Libya mean the EU is legitimising a containment policy which has no positive impact for people in Libyan detention centres, while downplaying the scale of atrocities in these detention centres. European leaders continue to say that conditions will be improved for those returned to Libya, but they know it's not true. A reduction in the number of people leaving Libya's shores does not mean a reduction of suffering. The suffering is just out of sight. So while I welcome many aspects of this report, we do need to do more. The Council of Europe should immediately highlight conditions in these detention centres, what funding they receive from European countries, and report on the violations of international and human rights law by Council of Europe member states in respect to containing and returning refugees to Libya.